Hello, and welcome to the Invest with CARL podcast. This podcast will bring you, obviously, everything about CARL investments, discussions about new features and strategies being launched, as well as commentary on general alternative investments news, slanting towards quantitative perspectives and the general democratization of sophisticated investments. Or said simply, bringing high-quality, sophisticated investments to all investors. We're looking forward to the conversation, so let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Invest with CARL podcast. I'm Jamie Uppenberg, your host and a member of the CARL team. It's just me this week, so we're going to do a little market update, talk about the CARL funds a little bit, and then I'll give you an update on what we have working on the product side within CARL. So if you've been talking with folks who watch the market closely, people who are invested and really pay attention on a week to week, or sometimes a day to day, or sometimes Alan Harmer, it's an hour by hour basis. He's our K2 manager. The talk this week is inflation concerns, the current U.S. administration and the tax hike talks. We do have stimulus checks coming out, which is helpful, but the inflation and the tax hike talks have certainly left a certain amount of uncertainty. And so with uncertainty in quantitative funds, risk measures will kick in if quantitatively, if there is not a mathematical statistical measure of success. If the outlook doesn't get above the quantitative bar, the mathematical bar, then the risk will say, it's safer to sit in cash. And you'll see that is primarily what's happening. Now, our Black Swan fund, Olympus, that sits in cash quite a bit. It's waiting for a market drop, right? That's what it's there for. It moves opposite to the market. And they did have, I believe, one little set of trades this week. Was it yesterday, late in the day? I think, I don't know if I watched it to the end. I think it did end slightly up, but it did not hold. It was not one of those, the market has dropped and the Black Swan is up and growing. So we did not have a full drop, but they did a little bit of movement, which is interesting. And then the others, K2 has stayed in cash for the week. And then so that's just a measure of the math and keeping money safe. And so as the uncertainty lifts and they can mathematically, determine a probability of success, we would see more movement. And we'll see how that goes for the coming weeks. And then we have CARL and updates and some of what we've heard from our users. We want to let you know what we're doing about it. We have an Android release that is very close to coming out. I would say we have probably 3 or 4 weeks before that will be available in beta. And we're excited about this. So I am an Android user in my personal life. I've worked with that team before, and I really like them and I like the product. So I can't wait to get CARL on Android. I start testing next week, and then it'll be just a couple weeks. We will announce the date that it is out as soon as we're confident through our testing. And then we have, I don't know if I've ever talked about with you guys that we have quite a large non-US international investor population on the CARL app. So love you guys, love to have you. And those earlier adopters into CARL had quite a manual boarding process. Their application was more manual than US investors. We are moving it to the more automated process. So we will start working on that in another week about. And then as we get through that, we hope to move everyone off of the manual processes and get even our international investors automated. You still have to provide several KYC documents. I know it's finding the documentation is always the deal, but getting it all within the CARL app, we believe will be a huge update for our non-US investors, and we'll welcome more of them as it becomes easier. So when we have that date, we'll get it out. And then on deck in a couple of months, we have, and if I had a drum roll, I would, we have the CARL IRA. Woohoo! We've had quite a few investors ask us, are we going to offer an IRA? Yes, we are. We have all of the agreements with our partners. So in, I think it's about a month and a half or so, we will begin development, connecting to that partner and offering a CARL IRA. You can then bring in your IRA funds, and that is a great way to use CARL investments. I mean, if most of your IRA is equities heavy, CARL funds are going, the quantitative strategies are going to offer you more uncorrelated options where you can have investments that are growing at pretty strong rates, historically at least, and that's what they target to do with these risk protocols, but you will not move in the same direction every time with US equities, with the stock market. That, wonderful use case for use of the hedge funds and how many people view them. And we hope many of you will be able to then take advantage of the funds with this offering. CARL IRA coming in a couple of months. And then we've also heard from several folks that they really move their money with their financial advisor. Can CARL funds be available just through their advisor? And the answer is yes, they can. We are making a big push to talk to the financial advisor providers of capital, and we will be able then to announce in a couple of months who we have partnered with and which advisors can offer CARL funds, depending on who the advisors providers of the capital management is. So we have a big push in this area in the next 2 or 3 months, and expect that we'll have some action and movement for you there as well. I don't know if we'll have absolutely everyone's, but certainly there will be some more availability in this area, and we know that you want it and have asked for it. So we're making moves. And that's what's happening here in the CARL offices and on the product. As always, thank you for being a member of our investment community. We want to give you what you need. So stay in touch. Let us know what you're looking for, and we will keep working for you. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Invest with CARL podcast. The views shared on this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of CARL. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only and is not intended to constitute and should not be deemed to be an offer to sell or a solicitation of an offer to buy any security or investment, financial advisory, legal, tax, accounting, or other professional advice. CARL funds are currently available to accredited investors with a minimum investment of $20,000. To learn more about CARL and to download the CARL app, go